Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today, I wanted to get on and talk about the difference between a partner who's maybe just not really great at understanding how mental health impacts, a person's life, and maybe don't have the tools to help you necessarily, versus someone who is maybe actively detrimental to your mental health. There's a difference there, and I think, some of it is explained by maybe emotional immaturity versus narcissism or some other kind of underlying kind of motive for their behavior that's more just more negative and intentional, right? So I think with the emotional immaturity, it's less about the intention of that person. It's more a lack maybe of skills and a lack of self-understanding and just that emotional immaturity. So I speak from experience of, being in a relationship for 31 years with someone, and we met when we were really young. I was 19, he was 20. There was a lot of growing up that needed to happen in each of us individually, as well as a couple, to be able to really understand each other's emotional well-being or emotional states, and then be helpful to each other during times of struggle. And so, there was a lot of times when, especially before being diagnosed with anxiety and depression, that I was trying to express that that's what I was feeling, but I didn't necessarily have the words, the vocabulary, or the way to just, to really share my feelings. And that, that was a bit of that was emotional immaturity on my part. And so I lacked the skills a lot of times necessary to communicate my needs. And that, coupled with being in a, in an often state of, fight, flight, fear, or fight, flight, freeze rather, and just, constantly being in a dysregulated state. So that, while Donnie would have wanted to be more, understanding and helpful, he lacked the skills in order to do that as well. And that was a lot of emotional immaturity on his part, right? And so we both had to grow and mature and learn those skills, and we also had to deal with our own dysregulation. And that growth individually allowed us to work together as a team to support each other, right? So now when I'm feeling myself struggling, I can voice that to him, and he can either ask me what I'm needing, or he can listen and validate, and I can ask for what I need, right? And he can respect that a lot more easily now. So if I just say I need to be alone, he doesn't necessarily think that I'm, cutting him off from communication and connection because I'm trying to, hurt him in some way, or, So it's a lot more easy to understand where each of us are coming from now, because we're in a different place of being able to talk about it more easily, because we're not so dysregulated, and we now have the language and the tools needed to be able to have those discussions and have them be much more healthy and just cohesive. So that's different from living with someone who is actively trying to undermine your mental health, right? And so if you're living with a narcissist, they're going to play mind games with you to have you believing that there's something wrong with you, and that it's your fault that you feel that way, instead of it just being a natural response to the environment that you're in and the lack of support that you have, right? Because what you're experiencing is natural. It is a natural response for the situation that you're in, and yet they'll make you feel as if it's not, right? And then also, they play that game of give and, like they love bomb you and then they withdraw it. And so they're toying with your mental health when they're doing that, right? Because they'll put you in a state of, like feeling really up and euphoric, and then they'll take you right down into the depths of despair. And so constantly riding that roller coaster, of course, is going to affect your mental health. And so if you're in the first situation that I described, it's just like you're emotionally immature yourself, which I was for a good amount of my relationship with my husband, and I would say he was too. And you can get to a place where you can, do that work and grow together. It's not a helpless thing. But the difference is that, say, there's a difference between, say, Donnie and I, and I'm not trying to make it out like we're perfect and we've got it all figured out, because we don't. We still struggle at times. We still have times when, we'll revert back to old patterns, but we're quickly noticing those patterns more. We're quickly addressing them. We're doing that introspective work. But the difference, I think, that made it happen in the way that it did and helped us evolve in the way that we did was the fact that we were both intentional with what we were wanting from our relationship, and we were willing to put in that work, both of us. So if you're struggling in your relationship and you feel like it's more like the emotional immaturity is a big piece of it, then you'll have to get some buy-in from your partner. And that's really challenging to do, because you're speaking from a place of hurt and pain and unmet needs, and so you're trying to get those things for yourself. And at the same time, you have to approach your partner in such a way that they'll want to buy in. And I know that sounds terrible, but they have to be motivated in some way. And not just with the, like, I'll leave and, you'll lose this relationship. Because I think in order for a person to be able to do that kind of work, that really, deep kind of work, they have to recognize that there's going to be a positive benefit to them. And the positive benefit to them is not just in their relationship with you getting better. It's that all of their relationships are going to improve. That even their work life will improve, that their relationships to other people in their lives and their ability to have community and build community is going to improve. So it's not just, if I fix myself for you in this relationship, then everything will be okay. Because the things that most people are asking for in relationships are universal, right? It's not that I need Donnie to act a certain way with me to meet my specific needs. I mean, there's probably some that are kind of specific to me, but generally speaking, most of them are the needs that all human beings have, of being connected, feeling safe, feeling nurtured, feeling nourished, and feeling cherished in your relationship. Like, those are all things that we need to thrive. Not just survive, but thrive. I don't just need a partner who's there physically, maybe providing financially. I don't just need that. I mean, I could have a roommate for that. I could, share, I could have communal living if I wanted that. But the specific things that I need from my partner in building this relationship, and this applies to, relationships that are polyamorous as well. So it's not just two people. It's like, in this relationship community that we're building, there are specific needs that each person's going to have, based on their preferences and whatnot. But generally speaking, overall, in the relationship, there needs to be that foundation of safety and trust and respect, right? So if you can convince your partner that the benefits to them are, like, look, we're both struggling here. We're both unhappy. I know that you're unhappy, and I want you to be happy because I love you. And I remember having this conversation with Donnie at one point, years and years and years ago. It was like, I want you to be happy, and still remain true to myself. Like, I need to still maintain my authenticity. And in that way, if I can still provide whatever it is that you're needing from a partner and still maintain my authenticity, then this can work. But if I have to give up key parts of myself in order to please the other person, then that's not going to work long term, right? So if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, they're going to strip all of the parts of you that make you unique and beautiful, and your authenticity, and they're going to try to mold you into this other person that you're not. And the problem with that is that you will never, ever, ever attain what it is that they're trying to mold you into. It's not attainable, because if you do this thing right, it means that, this part wasn't right or whatever. They're always going to find fault. So you will never, ever be that person, no matter how much of yourself you give up. And I think that's really the message that I want to drive home to people, especially in narcissistic relationships. There's no end game here where you will please this person. They're not going to change, and and likely what will happen is that you will continue to lose parts of yourself and whittle down and get smaller and smaller and smaller, and they'll still be unhappy, and either they'll keep you around because there's still something that they get from that, or they will just dump you, right? So yeah, there's that piece to it, right? So so one scenario is like, there's work that you can do. You can change this. You can turn the ship around. You can you can right the path that you're on, but that's going to take effort. The other scenario is, no matter how much work you do, even to the point of giving up your authenticity, you will not fix that relationship, right? So there's not many times when I am when I'm like, it's over, you should just end that relationship. But when I see people talking about not just their partner not getting it, but their partner really undermining them. So it's one thing to say to your partner, I'm really struggling right now, and they say, oh, that's too bad, and maybe they change the subject, or maybe they somehow make it about them or whatever. Again, that's emotional immaturity that you can work with if they're willing to change and grow. But if they are just completely, turning it around and saying you're too needy, there's something wrong with you, you need help, that sort of thing, then you're in a relationship with a narcissist, and that's never going to change. There's no getting them to get on board. There's no getting them to participate in changing the relationship dynamic. So, in either case, I do recommend that you get therapy for yourself, that you reach out to someone, either for some coaching or for some therapy, reach out to community, create a support network for yourself, and that might take time, and I'm not suggesting that it's like an easy thing to do, but just recognizing that you're going to need that support. Start trying to create that for yourself. And that's part of why I continue to do these videos, is just to give voice to the struggles that people are experiencing in relationships, to talk about my own struggles and how we've overcome them. But the way that we overcame our struggles is going to look different from how other people do it. But if you're wondering, where do I start? What do I do? then reach out, let's chat. There's different avenues to explore, there's different ways to approach, whatever's going on in your relationship. But if you're feeling like, some of it comes down to emotional immaturity, then, again, feel free to reach out. I have lots of resources I can share with you, and we can have a chat. Okay? So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Namaste.